Hey y'all, I want to try to be quick on this. It is a lot of information to go over, but in the Summer Wells case, people on social media, they don't do any research on what they're talking about. And it's frustrating as hell. When CPS does an investigation, it's four parts that are critical in it. And it's the physical needs, the medical needs, the educational needs, and the emotional needs of the children. And those are broken down into subcategories. It's very important with the Wells boys. It's just not as simple as internet people are saying that these boys belong back with Candace and Dawn and that the boys were only taken because someone went missing. That's not the truth, okay? What happened in a 911 phone call with Candace prior to Summer going missing is very important. You can listen to that 911 call. It's out there. During the 911 call, she says that she is afraid for herself and she's afraid for the children from Dawn. And in the background, you can hear Summer screaming. That could very well be the opening of the CPS case that people are talking about. The end result was that they had to make Summer go missing. Candace tried to retract and say she didn't want to press charges against Dawn. She can do that. But the police have to report to CPS. Children were involved. She said the children were in danger and you can hear Summer screaming. That's not going to go away just because she said, I want to take it back. It doesn't work like that. In an assessment that CPS has to make, they have a lot of facts that they have to go over. And that is, was a child harmed? Is there a risk of a child being harmed? Is there a risk of future harm? And then they assess the needs of the family. Well, that's going to involve all the crap about the house, right? Which basically became kind of irrelevant when Summer went missing. Because that falls into the assessment of, was a child harmed? Is there any potential for future harm? See, that all involves the boys. Right there, that involves the boys. But it's not just that. If you listen to the interviews with Candace and Dawn, the drunken rages and all the little things that they say, don't pretend that that's not getting back to CPS. Don't pretend that people aren't reporting, because people on the internet report, even when it's not relevant. And in this case, they're reporting what they hear Dawn and Candace say. The day that someone went missing is important with that, because when you're assessing the physical needs of a child, it's going to be clothes, food, shelter, and all that. But another important key element that CPS looks at is inappropriate supervision of a child. And while there is no set age to legally say you can leave a kid alone or not leave a kid alone, they go by a case-by-case basis. And when you think about leaving two little boys alone, the oldest was 12 at the time, I believe. Jesse was 12. Candace says she got up early in the morning. Dawn had already said he got up early in the morning and went to work. Candace and Summer trot off to town to go pick up grandma's. And she says the three boys were in bed. So right there she admits that she left the three boys home alone. She wasn't gone for, a 15-minute, an hour-long grocery shopping trip. They were gone all day, the entire day. And she says the three boys were home alone. So then they're even stupid enough to say that there was a phone call in which someone supposedly was trying to inappropriately touch the boys. You don't hear Candace say she was rushing home. You don't hear Dawn say he was rushing home, and they don't call the police. That's on CPS's radar right there. And I can tell you, as a former child advocate for the courts, it was on my radar as soon as I heard it. But then it goes even further. Then in the evening, Summer comes up missing. Dawn still isn't home. Candace jumps in her truck and she admits that she sent the three boys out into the woods. You're telling the police that some stranger is out there that came and abducted one of your children, and you've sent your three other children out into the woods. Is that a CPS violation? Yes, it is. Inappropriate supervision. So you look at the drunken parties and the pictures and the stuff that they say, and you know that those children were home and they observed drinking, smoking, maybe even adult sexual activity, things that the children should not have seen. How are the emotional needs of a child being met and the educational needs of a child being met when you're partying, drinking, and whatnot? Because you got to get up early in the morning to get these children ready for school. These children have to be prepared for school. They have to have had plenty of sleep. They have to have good meals. They have to have clean clothes. And they have to do their homework. CPS is looking into all of that. We're not gonna hear the answers to all that, but I can guarantee that there's something going on with those boys, even with their education. You're not going to hear about it because CPS will never report a child's status to the general public. It never happens. It's not supposed to happen. You wouldn't want it to happen. So then you have an allegation of Don giving cigarettes and marijuana to the oldest boy by a coworker. Don tried to set that coworker up. And as a matter of fact, Don got him fired. And you don't think him and his wife were very upset enough to inform CPS that Don was giving the oldest boy marijuana and cigarettes? I believe that Dudley said that he was 11 years old at the time. Now, I have worked with some kids in advocate cases, some really sad situations where these little boys would be proud of the fact that they smoked or that they drank, that some adult gave it to them, because for them that meant acceptance. And that meant that they were big boys, they were men. And that's the way they see it. So if that happened with the oldest boy, he's probably going to have some bravado about him, that he's going to admit to it and he's going to brag about it a little bit. Because that was his acceptance. If his father was allowing him to do adult things with him, that was the acceptance that little boy needed from his father, that he probably wasn't getting the proper type of acceptance. And that's going to come out in a CPS investigation. It's also very relevant that the boys are probably going to be given advocates or a guardian ad litem to speak with them and to speak on their behalf. And those boys eventually are going to feel comfortable enough to say what they saw happen to Summer or with Summer. We all know that the timeline that Candace and Don gave is not correct. And, the saying out of the mouths of babes didn't just flash out of nowhere. These kids will come out with some comments, and the kids will come out with the truth, because children are honest. They just naturally come out with it, and they're going to come out with it. So that's why there's no shocking revelations in these children being taken by CPS. CPS definitely looks into past CPS reports, which Don and Candace both have on them with their other children. There are people on the internet saying that isn't true. Don was recently on a YouTube channel called Smileys, and he made a comment that sounded like he was talking about fishing lures when he said, yeah, when I lost my first set of children, like it was just nothing. There are legal documents that say that Rosemarie Bly was the one who turned Candace in for child neglect with her first two children, and they consequently got taken away. And that ruined the relationship with Candace and Rose. I actually saw our creator last night, who makes a lot of summer videos, and he was entertaining the statements that Don and Candace, again, had something to do with Rose Bly's disappearance, which of course is the big internet rumor. Well, back when I was only doing Twitter Spaces, I talked with Christopher Lawson, and he assured me that Don Wells never met Rose, that they had no contact. He doesn't recall Rose ever even mentioning Candace around that time. They had nothing to do with each other, and Candace and Don were in Arkansas when Rose Bly came up missing. The only person that was the same in the two cases is Grandma's. Don and Candace were not there when Rose Bly came up missing. I'm sure that Christopher Lawson, if he even had an inkling that Don and Candace had anything to do with Rose's disappearance, he would have been saying so a long time ago, and he's still saying that they did not. So I don't know why that rumor is still even floating around, but it is. So that's what it is, guys. If you want further information, check it out for yourself. There's something called the Child Welfare Information Gateway, and you can find out more about real CPS actions and not what people speculate on the internet. Have a good one, y'all.